Yeah, I think that's it, recording now.
Right. Okay, I'll leave this to it, guys. Have a good night.
All right.
Yes, you too.
We'll just give it, that's 30, 33 or 34 in there now. We'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes, then we'll get started. Just thing. So Sam, as I said there to the boys, most of the slides will take sort of 5-10 minutes here just to get that out of the road, and then just the same as last week, we'll let the Q&A sort of roll. So anybody puts anything in the chat box, if you can just control that and then jump in whenever.
Yeah, no worries.
Whenever it's relevant, mate. All right.
Yeah, no worries.
So I'll give it 5 pass because there's up to 38 there now. So. There's Nicky. How's things, mate? All right. All good.
Good, guy. How's you, mate? All good.
Good to see you in. Brilliant.
Yep.
Everybody, Ben, he's in. Tucker's in. Jimmy's in. Luke's in. Good to go. Happy days. Okay, everyone, so we'll be ready to go here in about 2 minutes. So same as last week, we just all make sure that our mics are muted just for any background noise. It's a bit of a nightmare. And again, just for the sake of the first team players who have come on, if you are going to be asking a question or you are going to be trying to interact, try and have your wee camera on so that they can see who they're speaking to. It's a lot easier when you know you're speaking to someone than just talking to a black screen.
Feel free to fire all the questions and stuff into the chat box. I'll keep a wee eye on it as we go along anyway and bring people on whenever they ask. So feel free to ask any questions you want at any stage. Just fire them in there.
All right, so 30 seconds or so and we'll go. Just let everybody in. Anybody else comes in can jump in, that's all right.
No worries.
All right, so good evening to everybody who has joined us tonight again. Week 4 of our Lackall FC Youth Development Zoom sessions. We've moved on from speaking about how to get into the first team, and then we've worked our way through to strength and conditioning, nutrition, things like that we've spoke about, and then now we're into actually having first team players here, and we're going to speak about position specific. So tonight we're going to focus on goalkeepers and defenders. So just before we start on that, I want to say a massive thank you to the first team players who have joined us tonight, and also to first team assistant manager. The whole purpose of what we've been doing here is to build a connection with Lackall youth and the first team, as well as the development side. It was set up mostly really in regards to the development side, but in between that, we've been able to build a bridge that try and progress ourselves further than other academies really have. We keep trying to find that next step to make us the more progressive academy in the area. And I think this alone tonight, having first team players on who are open to questions, who are open to conversation, is putting us miles ahead of other clubs and other academies. It's absolutely fantastic, and I can't thank the boys enough. So, as I say, during the night, have your questions ready for the players, especially any good goalkeepers, budding goalkeepers and defenders. You have a perfect example here of quality players that you can ask questions to. All right, so as I said, session 4 is position specific. Goalkeepers and defenders. So as you can see, they are probably one of the best partnerships in Peter Czak and John Terry. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight, so we've had to do with these 4 lads. So tonight's guests are Luke Bush, who's the first team goalkeeping coach. Brett Turker, who is the goalkeeper for the first team. We have Ben Murdoch, who plays centre half, and we have Jimmy Ray, who plays fullback. So there's a nice wee quote, and we're going to speak about this in a minute with the players themselves. But Peter Schmeichel famously quoted that he could have done his job with it stood beside a dustbin because the defenders in front of him were that good. So I suppose the thing that we're looking at that is how good a relationship there is between goalkeepers and defenders. So it's good that we have both on here tonight, and we can discuss that for going forward for youth team players to have that insight into getting a relationship and building a relationship at these young ages between your goalkeeper and your defenders with in regards to communication. So starting off with Luke. All right, so Luke was capped in the county and district squad at under 15, under 16 and under 18. He then was at Tottenham Hotspur Academy from he was 12 to 17. So within that time, he had a dual contract, which allowed him then to go and play at Kings Lynn FC in the Southern Premier Division. Luke made his debut as a goalkeeper at senior level at 15 years of age. So that's something there for kids to have a good look at. He was capped for 3 times for England at schoolboy level. He has a UEFA C licence. He has the FAI C goalkeeping licence. And he's also the owner of Premier Goalkeeping. As well, on top of that, Luke also then does his own coaching academy, which can be down at Lockall. So, Luke, if you want to jump on and say hello and just give a wee brief thing of what I spoke about there, mate.
Yeah, no problem. That's an introduction. So thanks for that. I don't know how I can follow that up, but no, basically for me, I came to goalkeeping, I suppose, relatively quite late. I didn't start playing in goal until I was around about 12 years old, 12, 13. You sort of probably won't believe this, but I was actually a box-to-box midfielder up until then. And then just out of chance, really, I went in goal one day. A scout was actually watching the game. He was there to watch someone else. And he ended up sort of saying, do you want to come on trial at Norwich City? And, as a goalkeeper. And, I was obviously buzzing, I completely, I think it's my first game actually as a goalkeeper. And I think, what he saw in me that day was just that, I just loved diving around in the mud and just getting muddy. And I just had a smile on my face the whole time. And I think that's something that I think, I will tell a lot of youth players is that, being a goalkeeper is a little bit funny because, you need to be perfect all the time. And the one time you're not perfect, you can let a goal in or you can make a mistake, and it's a hard position to play. So I think more than anything, you have to enjoy it, and you have to obviously, enjoy what you're doing, play with a smile on your face. And I suppose just don't worry about sort of anything outside of, any sort of outside aspects in terms of making mistakes and things like that. And looking back on my career, I suppose that was something that I let get the better of me a hell of a lot. I sort of struggled with confidence, struggled with nerves, and I even remember actually before a game I'd stand up in the changing room and I'd say, now remember, David James is the England #1 goalkeeper, and even he can make a mistake. And that was before a game, you know what I mean? Just to let everyone know that it was okay to make a mistake as a goalkeeper. And so that was a bit, looking back now, that's obviously a bit of my mindset was back then. But yeah, I did all right. I then obviously joined Tottenham, and I was there about 5 years, and I wasn't offered a scholarship. But then what happened was the goalkeeper that was the year above me got injured. And they basically offered me then a year's contract, a year's scholarship, which I took, and I loved it, and I say at the time Tottenham had such a good team, and it was just full of England internationals. Paul Robinson was the England #1 at the time, so it was great obviously watching him and learning from him. And they had Martin Yole was the manager, and it was just a great team to be around. And from there, I went obviously on to Barnet, and then in League Two made a couple of first team appearances. And unfortunately, due to injury, I sort of stopped playing. I went on loan a few times and tried playing within non-league, but I suppose the injury that I had did affect me more than I would have liked it to. And I then fell out of football, didn't play football for nearly 8 years. And it's only really since moving back over to Northern Ireland there about five years ago that I started getting back involved. And I then joined obviously Anna United with Dean Smith, and then obviously onto Loughgall. And that's obviously then when, you know, we started the glove brand Premier GK. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been exciting. But I suppose, you know, I just absolutely love goalkeeping. I love speaking about it. I love I love talking to goalkeepers. And so yeah, any questions or anything any goalkeeper wants to ask me either tonight or at any time, they can message me or Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and ask me. And I'm more than happy to speak to anyone about it because I love it. So
brilliant. And just in regards to the business then, look, you obviously work with a lot of goalkeepers. How did that come about?
Yeah, it was mad, really. I think I said to my dad when I was about 14 that I want to start a glove brand, and he told me to don't be stupid and get some GCSEs behind you first of all. So, I mean, I think that was when I sort of first started thinking about it. Sort of when I was a youngster, and then again about 3 years ago, speaking to Andy Smith, Smudger, another coach at Loughgall, he sort of got in touch with a few factories and manufacturers, and they sent through some samples, and we just started the design process really. And I say we've been going, this is our 3rd year. We have obviously 5 or 6 goalkeepers in the Irish Premiership wearing them. The last Johnny Tuffy, Chris Johns at Lynn. We actually have all the Linfield goalkeepers actually wearing them at the moment. And we're in talks obviously at the moment for other goalkeepers to wear, and we actually have an international goalkeeper that's going to be playing in the World Cup qualifiers for Gibraltar, wearing the gloves at the moment as well. So, it's just something that, again, it's something that's really exciting. And I think our main sort of aim with the glove brand is, I suppose, to try and offer some value where we can to goalkeepers. Sort of say we're not just trying to flog as many gloves as possible. We're trying to do it in the right way. We're making sure that the quality of the glove is as good as you'll get anywhere else. We're trying to keep the price as low as possible, so young goalkeepers and youth goalkeepers can buy them, and the cost not be too expensive. It's going really well. And again, being involved in, I suppose, goalkeeping sort of on a daily basis again is something that I love doing. So yeah, really, really do like it.
Brilliant, well done. Wish you all success. So moving on then from Luke, we've got Turker on as well, who's the first team goalkeeper. Now, it's an absolute privilege, boys, to have these people on. So make the most of having them about. And the fact that they've done it shows the massive signs that Loughgall have went forward in times that you've got these people on, giving up their time, prepared to sort of answer questions and be there to speak to. So his nationality, he's actually German. So we've got an international, so to speak, goalkeeper at Loughgall. So just a wee brief insight into his career. He was at Monaghan Town, got into the first team, played in the Monaghan Town at a good level again as well at the age of 19. Then went on to Dundalk. We all know how successful Dundalk have become, so to get into that side is quite an achievement. They played in the SSE Electricity League, which is the League of Ireland Premiership. And then he came up to Dungannon Swifts, and I think there he had a trophy win in the Ulster Cup, and then he moved on to Warren Point. And as you can see, his level of competitiveness being at senior level and has been at the top level Premier League, no matter where he went. So to come and play at Loughgall is a massive privilege for the club and a big thing for us to get him. So Turker, if you just want to say hello and just sort of give us a brief introduction to yourself as well, mate.
Hi, cheers for that. Well, as you can see, name's Brett, and yeah, well, what can I say now? It's position as a goalkeeper. Obviously, I was a very late starter on myself. I think it was 14, I believe, when I somehow slipped into that position. I used to be a striker actually, up until I was 13, 14. I used to always think of keepers, for example, they're nuts, as they always like to say, we're crazy. and I used to never really believe that I would go near that position. But you know, as you develop as a player throughout the years, you will sort of find out what's best for you and what type of a player you are. And for me, that was that type of development, really, like to find out what am I and who am I on the pitch and what suits me the best. And of course, somehow I got in. Obviously, the Gaelic was the first time I was in goals, and then obviously Monaghan United, I slipped through the youth ranks then into goals, and I stayed ever since. And I started to kind of get a feel of the position, and it was something part of me, and it really suited me, my personality really as such. I always wanted to be, well, a showman as such and perform on my own in that lonely position. And you know, obviously you progress and you make mistakes and whatever as such. But yeah, that's really the short story, really, that I somehow used to be a striker, and how many other keepers have been before, started becoming goalkeepers and probably retire in that position, really.
Yeah, no, you made a very good point there. You made of that sometimes it can be a lonely position. So for people who's thinking and maybe being goalkeepers at the moment and finding that and sort of saying, all the boys are scoring the goals, they're having the fun, you know, we get that at sort of young levels, as you know yourself, in young ages, you're sort of indecisive of where you want to play. But, you know, what sort of what's the strengths of a goalkeeper and the benefits, you know, the success of being a goalkeeper? What would you say to encourage a kid who's maybe, you know, at that level of under 11, under 12, under 13, where they're in nets, and as you said, sometimes you can find it a bit lonely?
Well, you know, I think in everything starts with support. You know, I believe if you get the support of your family and of the coaches that actually believe in what you're doing, and I believe that, you know, to actually tell you that mistakes, especially mistakes as a keeper, we have seen it multiple times. That, you know, Addison, for example, you know, he made two vital mistakes, which, you know, most likely did cost the game. But if you cannot accept and, you know, take mistakes on board, especially as a goalkeeper, because we're overthinkers, right? Because the ball comes one way and it comes straight at you, because that's how they score. And mental strength and the mental capacity that you need to withstand in that position for 90 plus minutes is vital. Because if you don't have any trust, or people don't have trust in you, or you don't get the right support, I think it's going to be a very, very, very hard position to play in. And that what it makes a really lonely position is because all the trouble and all the blame will go to you. You know, they will never really blame any other position as such when they make a mistake, because you're the one who should have got that, or you should have done that. But if you believe in yourself and you actually accept that mistakes in every position, and the development really for you as an individual, and obviously in the positions you're playing in. And I just believe that the more you accept it, the more you accept mistakes are part of you, the better you become. Because if you do it again, you can brush it off quicker. You can plan better the next time. If the certain type of ball comes again, you can really evaluate that. You can kind of break it down in slow motion. If the same type of situation comes at you once again, you can react to it quicker because of the experience that you've made and gained from mistakes that you've made. And obviously, after each mistake, it's easy to be with someone and support someone when things are going good, right? Oh, you've made a great save. Oh, clean sheet, well done. But for me, it's you grow even better and you get more comfortable when people are behind you and got your back, when you make the biggest mistakes and you lose games. So for me, that's what makes goalkeeping such a unique position, because you're either the hero or the villain, you know, and there's no way in between. And it's the way you soak up the mistakes and how you carry yourself on the pitch that will make people look at you differently when you make a mistake. So you always want to make sure that you come across and you present yourself at such a high quality that mistakes are just seen as, okay, he's made a mistake. He usually doesn't do that. So it makes it easier for you to kind of, not to dwell on it. And it makes you really more motivated on a daily basis. And, overthinking can really just make you or break you. And I think that's what I mean with the support of coaches and parents and teammates. You can really just, become one of the best. And belief is the biggest thing that you need. There's no point thinking otherwise, because you're your biggest enemy and your biggest critic. End of the day, a coach may say something to you, but you're the one who's standing and goes on the man match day. You're the one who's coming for the cross. You're the one who's training outside of training. You're the one who's making yourself become the best, and no one else can really make you do these things, because you're the one who's, if you're willing to do it, you're the one who's going to go outside of training and walk on your mistakes. You look at the matches, you do your homework on other goalkeepers, and you just have to kind of just accept things, especially when they're going back to you. Just accept it and carry on and go forward.
Super, absolutely brilliant. That honestly, that for any young goalkeeper to hear that already is brilliant before we even start going into questions. So thanks for that, mate.
Gary, do you
So,
want to just ask questions? Sorry, just to interrupt.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask the questions to the goalkeepers now that are coming in, or do you want to wait until after?
no, we'll maybe just do the Q&A, mate. Just let them all introduce themselves so they're not sitting about too long, and then we'll do the questions.
So,
All right.
Ethan Dalzell, do you want to pop yourself on and ask the question you had, if you're there?
What was it again? How does a professional goalkeeper dive so far? How does a professional goalkeeper dive so far?
Well, good question. Well, it really depends now. There's multiple factors as to how or why certain keepers are able to dive so far. If it's low or high, top, you always see these top corner saves like the game. It really depends on the body composition of a goalkeeper. That means basically your weight. Sometimes height matters as such, but you can always train. You can always train your spring, your speed, and it all just comes down to training. It really just kind of find the balance, the right weight, because obviously if you're too heavy, it's always going to be harder for you to jump, dive left, right, top and bottom, whatever it may be. So training outside of training is what really will work for you, and doing the right training for the position that you're playing at. So goalkeepers, they need to be agile. They need to be springy, which, you have to do certain weight trainings. Walk on your sprinting, walk on your agility. And that's really what makes, don't be afraid to dive. A lot of keepers are afraid to go down low or do that top corner save because they're afraid to land. So once you have your confidence, all the fear, like it's out the window. You're just going to go for it because you enjoy it. You enjoy diving. That's why we become goalkeepers. You enjoy showing off, basically, making that dive. So you jump that extra mile to get to that ball, really. And yeah, that's really how we jump so far. It's those sort of points,
Luke, do you want to just jump on that? I know you said you had a good one about just goalkeepers love getting messy. So I think that's what she's more or less saying, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, as I say, and obviously, it's about just loving what you do. I say that's what attracted me to it first of all, was just diving around in the mud, getting muddy. But I mean, I suppose, as sort of goalkeepers get older, that like Brett was saying, there's things like plyometrics that we can do. Obviously this SAQ work, speed, agility, quickness is very, very important as well. Technique is obviously another thing that can be developed. Making sure that you're able to be able to push off your, say if the ball's been going to your left, being able to push off your left leg, is going to obviously give you more power to obviously get across the goal and make saves. So, I think that's very, very important. But again, that's something that I suppose you'll do more of as you get older. Maybe sort of around, maybe start doing between sort of 13, 14, 15 and upwards. But I say, when you're sort of, I suppose, younger than that, it's just about, I suppose, trying to just enjoy the position as much as possible, and just, I suppose, about trying to get any body part in the way and stop the ball from going in the net. That's the number one aim, I suppose.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you. As I say, we'll get the other two boys in speaking and introduce themselves, and then we'll answer and ask more questions after that. So, moving on from the goalkeepers, there we've got Ben Murdoch. Ben has recently only signed for Loughgall, a quality signing at that. So, just Ben had started at Linfield, and then obviously made the wee move to Glentoran and represented County Down at the Milk Cup. He then got a football scholarship at Northumbria University, which took him across England for a few years. Within that, Ben had a lot of trials across the water and played at a decent level. As he'll explain, probably that sort of level of university in England is when the scholars drop out of the Premier Academy. So you have a very good quality of football that he's played in there. When he came home, obviously, he had a spell with Dromara and Portadown, and then moved on to Dundalk, where he had a few successful seasons and done really well before catching the eye of Loughgall, and then signed for Loughgall last year. So, Ben, if you just want to pop on and introduce yourself again and just speak through it, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much, Gary. So, just to sort of go on the same sort of wavelength as what the other lads have said, so I've starting off playing football since I was 6 or 7. I think I was always a centre half from as long as I can remember. I think maybe somebody tried to play me at right back, but never really worked out. So I've always been a centre half from the word go. And just as Gary said there, I was always in the Linfield setup through my early years, from a centre of excellence type of thing, more of an academy thing on a Sundays. And then that moved to full time with Linfield. And then when I became about 16, I think it was, moved into the Glentoran team, and unfortunately only played as high as maybe reserve level. Never got an opportunity in the first team. But at that stage, I'd kind of already made the decision that I was more focused on education, which I think, as the other lads have said, is quite important to have as well. It can't always just be football. So I went down the route of university, and I was lucky enough to get a scholarship through my football, which helped pay for my master's degree. So I'm quite lucky in that respect that I've combined a bit of my football with my education, and obviously it gives you something more long term and a career outside of football, as well as still being able to play a decent level of football. So then when I eventually did come back home after playing over at Northumbria, so I just say about playing over in Newcastle, was kind of, it's a Northern League, so I don't know if you've heard of the Northern League, but it's perhaps maybe just a few levels below the likes of Conference North. So decent level, very different football to what we have over in Northern Ireland. It was a bit of a culture shock for me, I would say. It's kind of how you see it played in England, just trying to replicate that in the lower levels. But again, when I was in England, I was lucky enough to have a couple of trials at the likes of Newcastle and Bradford and Rotherham and Gateshead. So nothing came of it, but it was always good experience for me, and I'll never forget the experience I had at those clubs on trial, but also at the university team. It was a different experience and a really good experience, very professional setup. You were kind of treated like a full-time professional footballer, lived, played, trained like a full-time professional footballer, had the best of the equipment, had the best of the facilities, strength and conditioning coaches, this, that and the other, so it was brilliant. But then, as I say, I was there at university for not only for football, but obviously for education-wise, which then brought me back home about 4 or 5 years ago now. So I've not really been playing football in Northern Ireland for that long at a senior level. So I came back and got for a local team, Dromara, just because I was on a contract in England, so I couldn't actually play anywhere higher than amateur league. Very brief spell, Portadown. Maybe best not talking about it.
Especially not on here.
Sorry?
Especially not on here. That's a bad word.
Yeah, so we'll just move on quickly there. And then I had 3 or 4 seasons at Dundalk. Got back to loving playing football. As I said, great wee club. Playing with my mates again, and had a few successful seasons. One obviously winning the Premier Intermediate League to take us back into the Championship. So that kind of brings me up till now, and obviously made the move to Loughgall, which has been a new experience and a positive experience, I would say. Something that I thought I had to do to keep me going and keep me interested and kind of push me on to the next level, even though I am probably, I would say, an older, more senior player in football now at the tender age of about 28. So I needed something, a new challenge to keep me going, and unlock goals. Been brilliant so far. Unfortunately, obviously, I've not had the chance to play that much because of COVID, but from the involvement I have had, it's been fantastic.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you. And we'll get a few questions popped out soon, and we can get to hear more from you. So the last player then that we have on from the first team tonight is Jimmy Ray. Jimmy Ray is a fullback. His favourite position then would be left back. Jimmy actually didn't give us much of a CV. In fact, he gave us that much of a CV. I had to sit down to decipher where I was going to put it in 2 or 3 pages. So I've tried to keep it as basic as I can. But for a young player, Jimmy's had quite a career so far. So it'd be good to get your questions into him. So obviously the photo there, Jimmy played regular at Schoolboy International for Northern Ireland. He started his career at Glenavon, which was quite successful. I think there was quite a few trophies. If I'm looking back on his career and looking through some of the photographs and also within that, then he also represented County Armagh at the Milk Cup at both age groups again, which is a great achievement, and more so for the boys this year that are going up to the Super Cup. It's good to hear the experiences of that. I think at under 17 he was actually vice captain. Jimmy was on and off at Aberdeen for 2 years. Went and played a lot of tournaments with them and came even over here in this country in the Foyle Cup and then down into the Galway Cup, etc. I think he was quite successful there as well, but Jimmy will talk about that as well. Again, Jimmy's very young, as Ben said, and the whole Loch Gall squad is pretty young, the average age. So it's exciting for the youth team players to listen to somebody like Jimmy who's achieved this much already at a young age. So Jimmy, if you want to jump on and just introduce yourself, mate, and sort of elaborate on what I have up and the few other things that.
Yeah, great, no problem, thank you. So I'll just start from a young age. I firstly played for Portadown. I think I started playing when I was about 6 or 7. I was there, I think, 6 years when I moved to Glenavon at under 13s. Under 13, 14, 15, we developed a very strong squad at Glenavon, and I think we won the league one of the years, won the Northern Ireland Cup, won the local cup, and then after that I then represented County Armagh in under 15s, under 17s. What I would say is, if you do make it to the Milk Cup, it is probably the best experience of your life. One of the best football experiences anyway. Under 15, I enjoyed it a lot, but I still really found that it wasn't out of my shell as much as it could have been. And then at under 17, I've been training a lot more and had far better connections with all the lads, all the coaches. And as you said, I was vice captain in it, and it gave me a lot of strength and spirit, and ended up doing very well. We actually played against United in one of the matches, and Rashford actually played. And obviously, as you know now, Rashford's top striker in the world.
Markham, Jimmy?
They actually played. They played with a front three, and they just switched about everywhere. It was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. They tried to mark him, but it didn't go too well. Now, I'm saying that, we only got beat 2-0, so not the worst.
Brilliant.
And then go on to talk about Aberdeen. So when I was 14, I got asked to go over to Aberdeen. I think I went over either 8 or 9 times over 2 years. As you say, I played in the Galway Cup, played in the Foyle Cup, played against a lot of big teams. And we actually got beat by Celtic in the final of the Foyle Cup 2-0, which was unfortunate, but it was a great experience to get there. And unfortunately with Aberdeen, it was a wee bit unlucky. I'd sort of hoped and planned to be signing in the summer when I was 16, just finishing school. But for whatever reasons, they said they couldn't really afford to keep me, and this and that. And I don't know if that was the real reasons, but unfortunately I just didn't get that breakthrough, which a lot of kids just don't, but hopefully a lot of kids do. And then another thing that actually wasn't added into this, I went to Belfast Met Football Academy for 2 years at 17 and 18. Now this included training Monday to Friday every day. We're actually up in Jordanstown, which had jacuzzis, sauna, steam room, proper recovery sessions. And I think my 2 years at the Belfast Met is what actually got me into the Northern Ireland Schoolboys team. Just the extra training made a big, big difference. And what I would say is anyone that is looking to make it, you have to, like in this country, you're mostly only training Tuesday, Thursday, and then you're matching a Saturday. But to become a professional footballer, you definitely need to be putting in the extra work. You need to be doing at least 1 or 2 nights extra a week if you can, running, a wee bit of gym work. Would definitely recommend it. As I say, both Aberdeen and Northern Ireland was great experiences. It was very professional, all staying in your own wee dorms, training facilities, top class, all meals and all. As I say, we played, I think, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Australia, Guernsey and Jersey. So all big, big countries, and it was brilliant just basically to play against.
Brilliant, fantastic. So just moving on, that's the 4 of you introduced, and brilliant introductions. And again, I can't emphasize enough how appreciative I am and the development squad is that the first team players are coming in. So I think there's quite a few questions coming in there, so we're going to use the time wisely and get the answers, and that's the reason we're here for, really, again, to get that relationship with first team players. So Sam, I have a couple sent to me from Noel Robinson, but if you want to fire away with a few that's up there first, and then hang just to get a wee bit of a change, mate.
Yeah, sure. We'll work our way down. So, John McCoo, you want to bounce on and ask your question to the keepers?
John there?
I'm not sure. Maybe not.
Is there any one specific aspect of goalkeeping that makes a very good goalkeeper, or is it just you have to be like well-rounded at everything?
Well, there's always that's a good question. Like Luke always says to me as well, and like in all the goalkeeping coaches I had, do the simple things right. That's really the catch, make it look easy. The more you make things look easy, the better you come across. The more confident you come across. A lot of times keepers get nervous for certain balls, which is okay, which is normal. Some keepers are better at certain things, which, some dippers, for example, are very difficult to handle. A lot of keepers are really good at them. Some are less good at them. It's just the more you practice those things that you're less comfortable with, the better you get at them. And the more you do them, the more natural they come to you. You can see them before they're even happening. So you adjust yourself in your position. How far are you away from your line? Or how deep or how high are you really? So it's really just kind of getting to know the 18-yard box, getting to know yourself, and work on your strengths and work on your weaknesses, really. Like I said as well, that's really simple as it is, I believe, is just making everything look easy. Just make it look simple. Don't overcomplicate things because they're not. Because the more you overthink it, the more difficult it will be, but it's actually not. So it's just really having confidence in yourself, and you automatically will just make everything look easy. Everything will just become second nature to you. So that's really what it is, I think, anyways.
Yeah, look,
I'm just glad that he listens to me. No, I think, yeah, again, if you can make it look easy, happy days. That's obviously that's what we're trying to achieve. And basically, no save's easy, but if you can move your feet and get into the right position, then it means you can make a catch, or you're in the right position to make the save. In terms of the question, what I suppose is the biggest aspect. Being an all-rounder is very, very important. And I suppose as we move forward, and as the game progresses, goalkeepers, the ability to be able to play with the ball at their feet is going to become even more important. I think even at sort of Lockgall's level, if you come into the first team, I don't think Dean will be ringing up asking Gary, can the goalkeeper make a save? It will be, can he play with his feet? Can he play out from the back? What's his kicking off the ground like? They're sort of questions that obviously will be getting asked. And I think that's something, especially in lockdown, and as well, when you haven't got the ability to have specific goalkeeper coaching all the time, that's something you can be working on your own. So just passing the ball, or even practicing your long kicking off the floor. It just basically takes a field and a ball, and you can practice those things on your own. And I suppose that's somewhere where, and that's something that our position specifically is going to be changing massively over the next sort of say few years. And say you've seen the goalkeepers in the last few years that have come through Loughgall, Bucky, and again obviously Barat, both very, very good at the ball with their feet, can kick a ball off the floor very, very well. And I suppose again it just means that when Dean's setting the team up, and when Nicky and Smudge are obviously setting the team up, and they know that they can obviously ask the fullbacks, to obviously come and get the ball. And I say Jamie Ray will tell you, and so will Ben, sometimes don't want the ball, but we'll give it to him anyway. So yeah, that's obviously going to be very, very important moving forward, being able to play the ball with your feet.
Gary, I think the next question then, Jake Thompson, do you want to bounce on? I think you've got two questions, so do you want to ask the first one to Jamie first, and then you can ask the second one?
Yeah, it's fine. Hello, my name is Jake Thompson. I play right back for the 07s. I've played lots of positions in my short career, some I like more than others. Is there any other positions you've played but didn't really think it was for you?
Yeah, so throughout my career, I would have played both left midfield and left back. Now, in the modern game, they sort of come together, because nowadays left backs are more like left wing backs. One of the like, as much as important as it is to be a defender, you also have to be an attacker. Assist, getting the cross in is as important. I also played centre midfield for a while, but I think as you get older, as you play more, you finally realize what you're better at and what you prefer. And for me, it was I just always felt more comfortable in left back. Yeah, that's anything else to ask?
Do you want to ask the other one, Jake?
Yeah. You've lined up against some of the best defenders across several leagues. What do you think is more important attribute as a defender? Speed, positional awareness, or being able to read the game?
I think sort of same sort of as the goalkeeper saying. It's good to be as good as you can be in every area. You have to work on your strengths, your weaknesses. As a fullback, you have to be aware defensively as much as the keepers as the centre backs. Obviously, speed is key as a fullback. I think in this day and age, you're always going to be playing against very fast wingers 90% of the time, and it's good to be able to match the runs. Yeah, anything else?
No, thank you.
No problem.
See, just following on there from what Jamie was saying, especially what Luke was saying. See, for you guys, how football's changed recently so much over the last couple of years. I suppose we'll ask this to Ben, but as a centre back, then how much has the last couple of years changed football as a centre back, knowing how it has to be always with the ball at your feet? Does that change your list of priorities as a centre back to work on? And whenever you see a young centre back coming through the ranks, what sort of things do you look at first?
Yeah, well, suppose like as Jamie said there, and you've hit the nail on the head. I think it has changed the last couple of years, not just for the goalkeepers having to play with it at their feet, but the likes of centre halves getting expected to play from the back and be comfortable playing out from the back. And I think the game in Northern Ireland's changing. You can even see from the Irish League, teams are trying to play a lot more football now. So I think for a centre half coming up to the ranks, it's not just about being big, strong, win everything in the air, this, that, and the other, which is important, but it's also very important to obviously be technically good, almost as good as perhaps a midfielder or someone else or in another position. So what I would say for a young centre half coming up, don't just, when you're in training or if you're playing in a game, I would say go and try other positions, test yourself, test your ability, test your technical ability. And then if you do go back to playing the centre half, then obviously you've experienced other positions and you're maybe technically better off than what you would have been if you were just playing centre half and maybe not seeing as much as the ball. But Yeah, it's definitely, the game's definitely changed a lot more, and I suppose it's good to see that it's not just lumping and kicking up the field and sort of playing off scraps, that we're actually trying to play football a bit more. But obviously the key aspects of being a centre half still remain. Still win your personal battles, still win your aerial battles. But again, yeah, it's just that extra bit of being able to play football.
That be the same then for Luke and Brad, and how being a goalkeeper, that the fundamentals are still the same, but you just have to now add the ball at your feet aspect.
What's that question again? I barely heard you there.
Very okay. Just whenever Ben was saying, that the fundamentals of defending still the same, winning your headers, your tackles, so on. It's the same for goalkeeping, as in your hand and your position is just as important, but you now also have to contend with being able to play it with the back of your feet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's you nearly have to be in a relationship with your backline. Your feet can be as good, it can be the best in the game, but if there's no connection with any of the backs, there's no synchronization, there's no understanding where the next ball may go. If you understand any of the full backs, he knows, and you know, vice versa, where he's going to maybe pass a ball. You already know, I'm going to be available in this position, just with a flick, or just even with a heel if you have to. So everything's just in one. We really have to be like just a unit together. Like really, you have to. If you get a back pass, for example, you have to need to be able to have the no look pass nearly, and just play it to your far left, and knowing that one of the lads will be there. And it's the other way around as well. It's communication, I think, is key. I think it's a lot of keepers don't talk enough, or they just talk for the sake of talking. There's no point just talking away and not knowing what you're doing, which will absolutely disrupt the whole position, no matter how good your feet are. I think that you have to think with your head before you really kick the ball. You need to know where you're standing position-wise, which makes any back's position and job easier, knowing, yeah, he's on my far right, or he's on my far left. I know he's right behind me. It's just due to the relationship that you have together, which will determine of a clean sheet, a win or a draw, or defeat, really. So, yeah, that's really what it is, I think.
Fair enough. Lennox, do you want to bounce on and ask your question?
Yeah. How did you get your confidence up?
How do I get my confidence up? There's many ways how you can get your confidence up now. I think it's just belief, really. You need to just enjoy it. You need to really enjoy playing, being on the pitch. I think that's how you get your confidence up. You need to really look forward to the weekend when you're playing. You need to look forward to the training. You need to, try maybe a new skill, depending on the position you're playing at. Or maybe if you have new boots, they can even give you new confidence. For me, for example, is gloves. If I get a good pair of gloves, they're sick. Do they match my jersey? Do they match me? And that really just brings my confidence up. They're just the small bits really that will make your confidence raise, like a good pitch. If it's like a golf course, really, the weather or the boys around you, knowing how good you really are. That's really what it is. Self-belief will make your confidence just, go through the roof. And, you just need to kind of experiment, I think, as well. Different ideas that you maybe want to do in the game. And, don't be afraid to just try it. And the more you try, the more confidence you get. Really, that's what it is.
Suppose we can ask the defenders from that there point, Ben and Jamie. Whenever you guys, obviously, like whenever you talk about confidence, how then does that come into dealing with failure? So, say for example, Jamie, whenever you're playing against United, the Milk Cup, you lose a couple of games. How then do you build yourself back up? How did you and Ben, like Ben, you can speak after. How did you build yourself back up after losses and deal with that failure?
Yeah, so I think is if you're having a couple of bad games or stuff isn't going right, you need to sort of revert back to the simple things, like simple passes, defending well. Just start off simple, build your confidence back up, as I say, and basically that whenever you're playing, you need to understand that you have plenty of time when you're playing. A lot of people feel rushed when they're playing football, but actually you have more time than you think. You just need to try feel comfortable and believe in yourself. So you do.
Yeah, I suppose confidence is a big thing in football, and it's very evident when someone isn't very confident at a time that it can affect your game. But I suppose that's why it's a team game as well. You're not really in it on your own, so it can help. It can help maybe players around you getting your confidence back up, helping you through a game. If they can see you're not doing things right, as Jamie says, the basics. If you're not doing the basics right, then maybe one of your teammates has to step up and kind of help you through in some way, shape, or form. So it's not to say if you're low in confidence, it's up to yourself to get out of that rut. That's why it's a team game. You have the lads around you to try and get you through. But yeah, totally agree with what Jimmy said. If you are going through a bit of a bad spell and confidence is at all-time low, you just need to maybe look back, reflect on what you're doing, and go back to basics, get the basics right, and go from there.
Suppose then, from the flip side of that, look, from the coaching side, when you've got a goalkeeper who's maybe had a mare and he's feeling down and nothing's really getting them up, what sort of advice then do you give, Luke, from a
I really hear that. I was breaking up there a wee bit.
No, it's important. Yeah, definitely. I think, in terms of, especially with goalkeeping, mistakes happen. And it's about, how you deal with those mistakes. And as me as a goalkeeper coach, deals with it very, very differently to when I was a goalkeeper, and when I was a goalkeeper, I suppose confidence and I suppose fear and anxiety is probably the reason why I'm not sitting here as a 31-year-old either still playing football or not having maybe 150, 200 sort of senior appearances behind me. Is because it was very, very difficult for me back then. I suppose as a coach now, it's just about basically making that training environment as fun as possible. And I think that's something that because I'm so passionate and I love it so much. I think whenever the goalkeepers come in, if they've had a bad game on a Saturday, we won't really mention it, to be honest with you. We'll just basically put on a real fun session. Maybe I'll try and introduce a few different bits and pieces that, let's say, for example, the goalkeeper came for a cross and he dropped it and they scored a goal. Maybe we'll work on a bit of crossing. It won't be the whole focus of the session. It's just about, again, mistakes happen. 9 times out of 10, you would have come and caught that cross. So it's not dwelling on it too much. It's not paying too much attention to it. And upbeat, trying to increase their confidence again. Maybe do something that they're good at. You know what I mean? If they've made a mistake coming for a cross, don't go near crossing that week. Do something that they do enjoy doing, and just build that confidence back up again. But especially as a goalkeeper, and I suppose as a defender, when you go into, I suppose, playing senior football, that jump from youth football to senior football, confidence is massive. And I would just obviously urge everybody to, if you are struggling with self-confidence or whatever, you're feeling anxious about playing or making a mistake, have a chat with people, talk about it. Don't boil it up because, I say, as an adult now sitting here talking about it, I would do things differently if I had my time again. But definitely, yeah, it's about trying to make it as enjoyable and as fun as possible. And it's very, very important.
Great message. James McGrath, do you want to bounce on and ask your question? James there.
As a goalkeeper, was that the hardest position you ever played?
Yes, absolutely. It's like I said in the introduction earlier, for it being the loneliest position in the sport, really. Obviously, because everything's on you when the ball's coming towards you. Can you handle the pressure? Can you handle the crowd? Can you handle, obviously in senior football, and when you have fans, for example, I can just speak from my own experience. Away fans, well, if you play away or they're at home, when they start shouting at you, whatever you can think of, can you still focus on your job for 90 plus minutes? Can you actually just concentrate and blank that out, what's going on behind you? They're giving you certain names at you, whatever they may call you. Are you able to just kind of get away from that? Can you just kind of ignore that? That's only background noise. I'm on the pitch. Those people are here to watch me, So you need to really just soak that in and enjoy it so much. It'll make your job just a wee bit easier. But it is the hardest position because of the abuse, because of things being said to you, or you see yourself on maybe BBC highlights and match of the day. You made a mistake, your dwellings, or people are commenting on the Facebook pages, on Twitter, because you made a mistake, because not every day is rosy, not every day there's sunshine in that position. And the more you love the position, the more you just accept it. You really just have to accept things in that position, that it's not always going to go your way. You really need to kind of, with your mental ability, walk with it, be in sync with it, because it is really hard. A lot of keepers, they dwell over mistakes for many, many years, and it affects their career. As we have seen it happening to so many keepers, like in Irish League, in the Electricity League, Premier League, wherever you can think of. After huge mistakes, we can take, for example, Cavios. We all seen it, what he's done against Madrid. And if you're a keeper, you'll feel for him. You will not give abuse. You will not, that's a no-go area. You know what I mean? And you should never really slate anyone making a mistake, never mind in such a massive game like that, because there wasn't just 200 people at it. There was thousands upon thousands, probably millions of people watching that game. So, we've seen what happened to his career. He was still in the game, but he went to Turkey. He was doing great, but he's done, it was still in his mind. You can really see it. Once you've made mistakes, and that as a keeper, you can really see it in the players and the keeper's eyes and his whole personality. He's, that it's really still affecting him. So that really is, for me, the toughest position that I've ever played in. But there's worse things in life. That's what I like to see it. So just take it as a pinch of salt, and make the most of it while you can, because you can always look back years to come and say, I'm actually glad I became a keeper, because if you're crazy, that's where you belong. So, it is the toughest, but it's the most enjoyable at the same time, in my eyes.
Just to build an interesting point there, both you and Luke have made. Ben, see, whenever they talk about making mistakes and moving on from them, is it though still important then, how do you find yourself reflecting afterwards on your own performances, whether you've made mistakes, whether you've been good, whether you've been poor? How then important, say the Saturday night after you played, do you go home and reflect a little bit on your performance, or then do you just completely put it out of your mind whenever you come off the pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of sticks with it if you have had a bad game, or if you made a massive mistake in a game that's led to a goal or led to something happening that you've lost a game or something. Yeah, it definitely does. It sticks with you. Sometimes it can ruin your night, your Saturday night or your weekend, but you have to try and put it out of your mind. As Tucker said there is more life in football. Like, you can't have football getting you down 24/7. So you kind of have to accept any mistakes, any bad games, anything you've done, and know what you've done and learn from it, type of thing. You can't dwell on it for too long. And obviously that's why you train during the week, and that's what you're there to do, and improve on your own ability. And no footballer is perfect. Everybody in football is still learning. That's why you train right up to whatever age you keep playing at. So yeah, any mistakes, any problems like that, from that point of view, you can't dwell on them for too long. Accept them and move on and learn from them.
Dar's got a great question for two defenders, if he wants to come on and ask that.
Okay, evening boys. No, just put a wee question up there. Which would you take? You can only pick one, Jamie and Ben. Would you take a last minute winner to get your team 3 points, or would you take a last minute header in the back post or wherever to win your 3 points? So I'm interested actually in Big Ben as a centre half. What's your viewpoint, the crunch and tackle or the goal scoring or the last minute goal?
Well, there's only one choice really. Like, has to be a last minute crunch and tackle. I think even at any time in the game, I'd rather hit a big tackle and score a goal. I think it's more important for me anyway, but maybe that's the centre half of me. But yeah, definitely a last minute tackle to save the game as opposed to scoring goals.
Jamie, you the same?
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with Ben. As a fullback, like, I don't get too many opportunities to score, but I do get opportunities to hit the tackles. And as he says, there's no better feeling than hitting a good solid tackle, and especially if it's to stop the opposition from scoring a goal.
Fair enough, fair enough. Lauren, do you have a question there? Will you put your hand up?
Mistake, was it?
Maybe not. Last question, I think, for me, probably is for any of the boys. How important is our recovery after games? So after you go home, are you going home stretching, recovering, sleep, nutritional, and those sort of things? How does that come into it for you guys?
Jamie, you want to go first?
Yeah. I know. I'll have to say that all them aspects are, to be honest, vitally important. As a footballer, recovery is probably as important as your training. It's the same with, sleep, eating well, ice baths when possible. At the end of the day, if you're not recovered properly, you're probably more prone and more able to get injuries, which obviously is not what you're looking in football. I would say that it's probably actually more important to make sure that you recover well and eat properly, because at the end of the day, if you're not 100%, you can't perform 100%. And I think that is very important.
Yeah, I just agree with Jimmy there again. I think even as I've got older, you realise the importance of recovery and obviously keeping your body at its peak if you can. So as Jimmy said, if you're not in a position to play 100% because you've not recovered 100%, then you're not doing yourself any favour. So it comes down to nutrition, as well as obviously active recovery in terms of light training or something, and then obviously getting going again the following week from training. So yeah, recovery is just as important as the training you do itself.
No, very good. So I'm a bit skeptical sort of time and just how we're getting on. So I suppose the last sort of one then from me would just be for every single one of you, it's just sort of 30-40 seconds for all our defenders on here, for all our goalkeepers on here. What is your strengths and what was your weaknesses that you worked on hardest to play specifically in that position?
Goalkeeper start or?
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, go on, Brad.
Because I'm such a confident guy, right? I'm always going to be honest about my strengths and weaknesses, and it should never really come across as big-headed or vain as such. You really have to kind of sometimes, I think, just, yeah, I am good at that. I am maybe one of the best in the league doing that, and there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of people will always say that against you when you kind of praise yourself. If no one else will, you have to give a clap on yourself on the shoulder and say, I'm actually really good at that. So for me, personally, what my best or my strengths are would be set pieces. When it comes to crossing, crosses, for example, I believe that, have never really got beaten by many crosses coming in the Premiership or in the Championship now. My speed, I like to believe that I sometimes beat a striker to the ball, even though he's probably there before me, I will still get there before he does. Because I always had that natural speed to me. Because obviously growing up in Spain, always been on the beach as a kid. So obviously I had a different type of training in me since a very young age. And kind of the confidence coming out for it. I think that the Gaelic as well kind of helped me with that. Coming for crosses, going one-on-ones, not being afraid going in. So I think that the physical aspect of it is one of my strengths. Obviously with the speed and my hands and the crossing, or any sort of set piece. My weakness would be dippers. Dippers I think are a bit tricky. It really depends on the ball, the weather, the pitch condition, the type of ball, literally the material of the ball. We've seen last 3-4 seasons, the material of the balls have changed. They're either soft or harder, or they move less or more with the wind. And it's really just, kind of, they really have to judge, I think, sometimes. Especially when it comes through defenders, you sometimes can't always catch them clean or parry them down. It's really just make most of it, hope for the best. I think that dippers, really are my biggest so-called weakness. But you know, they're not the worst, but you know, it can always be better. And I always try to work on them the most, kind of to make them somewhat easier to deal with. But you know, it's something that you just have to deal with really, and try your best really to not kind of let it bounce off your, you know, just make most of it really, and don't be afraid of a dipper, of the things you're bad at really, and try to work on them really. That's what I'm trying to do. So yeah, that's really what it is with the weaknesses and strengths.
Luke, for just I suppose for you then, as the coaching side of it, what would you recommend that the best attributes, and you know what they really need to work on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, as I say, if you can work on stuff, you know, by yourself or obviously, you know, with someone in your household, it's going to be really, really important, especially obviously during this whole lockdown period. But as I was saying before, you know, look at every single training session as a goalkeeping session, you know. So I think, you know, Ben mentioned it earlier on, you know, you're not just a goalkeeper now, you know, you have to be able to play with your feet, you have to be able to communicate. So I suppose, you know, during training and stuff, you know, if they're doing phases of play, we'll go and play out on pitch and go and play out on field, and you know, and get comfortable with playing with the ball at your feet, your first touch, 5-yard passing, 10-yard, 15-yard. I think that's obviously going to be really, really important. And as I say, you know, as a coach, you know, again, putting on obviously fun sessions, but making sure again that, you know, the sessions are, I suppose, specific and that they're realistic, obviously, to a match day. I think that's something that obviously I try and do quite a lot and really try and do often. But I suppose as a player, you know, looking back, was a sort of, I suppose, sort of could have done better. But you know, as I say, that's obviously with hindsight. So very, very happy where I am. Love being at Loughgall. I think it's great. Obviously, great setup. I think the goalkeepers we've got, you know, within the club are brilliant. You know, having obviously Barat as our number one sort of first team goalkeeper. As you've seen tonight, he loves talking, especially, you know, about himself. So if you want to have any questions and stuff to ask him, then obviously, you know, feel free to obviously go up to him on a match day and ask him a few questions. I'm sure he'd be happy enough to answer. And it's the same for me, you know. If you have any questions or whatever, then, you know, feel free to come up and ask. And as I say, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be back soon and training, and we'll be able to start the goalkeeper training specific sessions again soon. So fingers crossed.
Brilliant. Jimmy?
Yeah, so personally speaking, I feel that probably my biggest weakness growing up was probably my size. I was quite a small child, small teenager. What I've done to change that is Kyle, that was on here last week, the PT, Flexible Fitness. I actually joined the gym with him, and he sort of set me on a strength program. And I found after 2 or 3 months, along with diet, proper sleep, that the strength training improved my game drastically. As I say, there was, even whenever I was at Aberdeen, you know, one of the main things they were asking was doing gym work. And to be honest, at the start I wasn't, but then I did do it for a year or two, and say I went off it again, and I started to feel that I really was struggling strength wise. Another thing as a defender, which is probably the most important thing as a fullback, especially, is that you have to remember that defensively, defending comes first. Now there have been times I get quite carried away in a match and I would like to bomb on. I enjoy doing it, but I say just concentrating on defending first and foremost is very important.
Brilliant. Ben?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short here, Gary. Strengths, I would probably say, especially now, maybe the reading of the game, reading of what's going to happen in the game, and probably a weakness, which a lot of lads probably already know, is my fitness, perhaps, and maybe I'm not the fastest of the centre halves, but again, I think one of the attributes, if you are able to read the game, then you can kind of get away with that. But I wouldn't recommend that. If you're fast, keep that up. But yeah, that's kind of it from me, short and sweet.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Again, thanks to the four of you. I think that's really all we've got in, Samuel, isn't it? It's just so from there, I'll say a massive thank you again, and emphasise that what we're trying to do at the club and what we're trying to do at the academy, to have 4 first team players on and 4 next week as well, you know, is going to be huge. And it's testament to yourselves that you are approachable, and as Luke echoed, I want these sessions to be relevant, that should a young player ever need some advice, or should they want to ask a question, that you've seen here tonight more than enough that you are very approachable. And honestly, I can't thank you enough for doing that tonight. Just on that, we're also very privileged that as weeks have gone by, we've had committee members on, but tonight we've also got the first team assistant manager on, Nikki. So I'm just going to ask Nikki to jump on and just give a few wee comments and how the first team are doing with these sessions and the connection that we're now starting to have. Nikki, you on there, mate?
Yep, guys, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having us all on. No, it's just for the young lads as well. It's great now that we have this setup with the 3G, and now for us even going down to training and seeing you guys all training and kind of being one club. I think it's brilliant. You've seen the lads on tonight, like the rest of them, they're very approachable. The goalkeeper coach as well. You know, if any of you ever have any questions, or your mums or dads, to come down. You know, this was a vision probably we had with Lockall of making it all one club, and it's great to see. It's nice to see when we come down to train with the young lads and their kits and stuff. And you know, when we did have football, we've seen a lot of the lads at our matches and watching, and it's been a really good time for the young teams and us. You know, progressively in the last season, winning the Mid-Ulster Cup and coming second in the league, you know, so we can see it's a progressing club. The changes to the ground and the facilities, you know, if you look now at the club, it's probably on a par with some Premiership teams, you know, the lower niche Premiership teams, and that says testament to the committee and everybody from the youth right up, of what the club has, you know, progressed on. I think we'll be there. I think this year's our 5th season or something, you know, and the changes, you know, I think the likes of Jamie's been there near enough. Literally, he was one of our first signings from the start. He'd probably say himself the changes that has happened with the club, for the likes of yourself, Gary, with Davy Johnson, Dara, Samuel, you know, all the people that have come into the youth. We've seen dramatic changes in the setup, and I think as a club now we're far tighter with youth and the senior level. And then just to the young lads tonight, you went through a lot of questions of the defenders and the goalkeepers, etc. Basically, it's just to break it down. Training, you know, as much as you train and as much as you'll get out of it. You know, I've even young family here myself, and my young lad's 6, and just trying to get him out and to train and to do simple things. Like football, I think as coaches, we overcomplicate the game. It is a simple game. Like I have a young lad there wanting to practice with his weaker foot. I remember back in our day, he's out kicking a ball. I have him kicking a ball off a wall and stuff like that there. But for you young lads, it's all about enjoyment as well. You know, sport's a fabulous thing and football is a great thing. You know, whether any of us, some don't go on and make it, some do. But I do honestly say, and I think the rest of the guys with their stories, sport opens up a lot of doors and you meet a lot of people. Like from the people, I'm still friends with people that I was playing with years, 20, 30 years ago, football. So it's up to you guys, you know, enjoy it. These, I think, is listen to some of the stories of our players. You know, these are the years are probably the best years of your life playing football. You know, when then you get older and you get into the thing about money and how you look and what you do, these are the years you should be enjoying and going out. And I do honestly think with the club that you're at and the progress of the youth setup and the senior your setup, you will get this here. And we hope, you know, in the future, I think these Zoom calls have been excellent for us to connect even more from senior level down to youth level. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, Nicky. Thank you. And to say, you've just summed it up. The whole point of this is to get that connection, and it's been brilliant. And I really have to thank the parents and the kids too for getting involved and being interactive, because the uncertain times that we're in, the most important thing is the interaction. And that's for me what the whole setup has been for, is to get that interaction and have that relationship and that, you know, where we can talk to each other on a Friday night. So thanks again, everyone, for being on. And I hope you all tune in next week. Next week we'll have Scott McCullough and Marcus Dallas, Nathaniel Ferris and Andy Hoy. Again, very good stories. Them boys too have been through a lot of ups and downs, and they're now playing regular in a very good environment and making a good career for themselves. So we're trying to cover everything. So it's not just, you're not always going to hear the highs of football. So especially next week, with one instance, we'll hear a very, very emotional story. So please make sure you are all in, and you can see how people can benefit from being positive throughout times like this. All right, so thank you again, and see you all next week.
Thanks very much, guys. Well done.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, lads.
Thank you very much again, boys. Brilliant.
Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you.